Welcome to the Goalie Hacks Podcast, the show dedicated to providing elite tips, hacks, and strategies to take your game to the next level, where we help you become an elite goaltender, one hack at a time. And now, here's your host, Mike Santaguida.
Bang, bang, and welcome back to the Goalie Hacks Podcast, where we provide you guys tips, hacks, and strategies on how to get to the next level. I'm your host, Mike Santaguida, and thanks again for tuning in. It seems we've finally come to a point where we're going to get back on the ice, so I hope everyone feels like they've gotten something out of this quarantine. You know, if you were proactive, it's provided a tremendous opportunity to either work on projects or personal development. So I hope you guys took advantage of the personal time in some way. I know I certainly have. I just wanted to give an enormous shout out to all my community members and all my listeners and subscribers of the show. We're now 12 weeks into the program and we've officially cracked 5,000 downloads and 500 subscribers, and I couldn't be happier and I couldn't be having more fun doing this, you know. So just want to say thank you everybody so much. You know, I intend on continuing to just pour my heart and soul into this project to help you guys continue to elevate your game and get to the next level and hopefully one day accomplish much more than I have in my career so far. So I have some big plans going into the second half of the year, and I can't wait for you guys to see what I have in store. Right now, I'm working with several NHL teams to try and finally get NHL coaches and goalies on the show. So stay tuned because we are not far at all from taking this show to the next level. Today on the show, I have an old friend and my old associate head coach from UVM on the show, Kyle Wallack. Wally had an enormous hand in recruiting both the Quinnipiac and Yale teams that went to the national championship final back in 2013 and is known as one of the greatest recruiters around Division I hockey. He just became the head coach at a Division III college and has over a decade of experience coaching at the highest levels of hockey before pro, including Division I and the USHL. If you're looking for an inside look into what Division I college coaches are looking for, this one's definitely for you. Just want to let everybody know that May 27th, tomorrow, for 48 hours only, we'll be doing another 15% off sale on all the Goalie Hacks merch. So if you've been enjoying my work and have gotten something out of it, and if you're looking to support the show and become a hacktivist to show off to all your friends and family, make sure to head to the merch shop through the link in my bio on my Instagram page, or head to goaliehacks.com/shop to access this very short limited time sale before the discount disappears again for a couple months. We have a bunch of new items like face masks, shorts, and all sorts of summer apparel for you guys to get ready for the hot season. So make sure to go check it out tomorrow while supplies last. Shout out to my patrons, Ethan, Joey, Nick, and Matt, for supporting my work. And if I've helped you at all in your journey so far, and if you're looking for some extra perks while also supporting my work, for just a few bucks, you can become a part of my inner circle and get stuff like a shout out on the podcast, IG Live student guest Q&A feature, access to private group Zoom Q&A streams, my private group chat where I give behind the scenes look into goalie hacks, my day-to-day work, new tips, hacks, and strategies I haven't released yet, what I'm working on. And also some other things like monthly video review and 1v1 personal development to help you find a place to play and develop a path and a plan for you to get to the next level. So if that's something that interests you, head over to my Patreon page in the show notes or at patreon.com/goaliehacks, or hit me up directly for more details on Instagram. As always, quick shout out to our main supporter of the show, NeuroTracker, and we've gotten 16 kids started so far, and the feedback has been nothing short of phenomenal. More and more kids are getting back on the ice already, and after using the NTX, they're blown away by how well they're reacting and tracking pucks. There's honestly nothing out there that gives you as big of an impact as fast as this, while being more scientifically proven than anything else I've seen to date. They're very close to launching to the general public in the next 4 to 6 weeks, so stay tuned for more details. But to kick off our sponsorship, we're giving away one subscription to the new NTX product not available to the public yet, so stick around to the end of the show to get the details on how to enter. Without further ado, let's get into this week's episode. I know you guys are going to love the chat Wally and I had today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Goalie Hacks Podcast. Today on the show, I have the pleasure of being joined by my old associate coach at UVM, Kyle Wallack. If you guys are looking for an inside look into one of the best recruiting minds in recent memory in both college and junior hockey, this one is definitely for you. Wally has been coaching for 23 years, with 18 of those being coached at the Division I college level, with a year as a head coach and GM in the USHL for the Indiana Ice, and now is the head coach of the Division III program, Albertus Magnus College. For the people that don't know, Wally had a very strong hand in recruiting a lot of those players that were a part of that national championship team at Yale back in 2013. He's the reason I ended up at UVM, and I couldn't be happier to have him on today to chat. Wally, how are you doing, buddy? Super glad to have you on the show.
I'm doing well, just staying safe, a little bit low key these days, but was excited to get the call from you and catch up, and excited to be on here today with you.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. I had such a hard time writing this interview just because, one, you have so much knowledge from junior to college, but you and I also have a relatively long history, and I got so many stories from around the time I was committing. I just hope we can sort of cover it all.
Yeah. It's a long path, but it's funny. It takes you back, as we were speaking about before, that it probably takes you back about 10 years, and you start doing a few Google checks on what the heck was what back then compared to now.
Yeah.
But just hearing your delivery, listening to your first podcast, introducing yourself, and how it all kind of came together, and probably a lot of moving parts that you don't even know of that we can chat about today, even.
Yeah, no, for sure. I honestly had a really good time working with you over the years and at UVM, and I'm just super excited to chat today. We had some good rides. So I'd love to just first start off quickly, maybe give our listeners a brief intro of your journey up until maybe when you and I met, like about 10 years ago, and then we can continue on that journey later in the convo.
Yeah. No, I started my coaching career, I guess, with Junior Whalers, which changed names probably about 11 times these days. It was my old junior program with two guys that were really influential on me, with Gary Deneen and Gene Riley, and I went and was their goalie coach for a couple years, and
Really? I didn't know that.
yeah, and that was the first gig. I was with them in the old EJ. And
Mhm.
probably then I was 21 years old, right out of, just finishing up school, and probably didn't realize, you knew those kids were pretty good players, but you didn't realize how good. And obviously a lot of NHLers, a lot of Division I hockey players, a lot of guys that are coaching now. So that network over the last 20 years has actually been pretty unique, and seeing guys kind of get to the top and holding Stanley Cups, but also now in the coaching field as well too. And
Mhm.
that led me. I think it's a game of relationships as you kind of go through. You probably go
For
through it
sure.
all here, and it led me down to University of Delaware for a year, which was a CHA club program, Division I club program. That for whatever reason, Delaware was a great spot for me at the time. I was coming out of Springfield College, where there's 2,000 students, and Delaware had 20,000, so I was like a kid in a candy store a little bit. But
Mhm.
um, coaching, they had two rinks down there, and they're just clubbed because of whatever reasons financially. But at the same time, it got me a chance to coach and work with a guy, Josh Brandwain, who had a relationship with Gary Deneen, and went down and kind of started my college career there, and from there moved to Nichols College in right outside of Worcester, Massachusetts, small Division III school, and got an experience there for a season. And after that, got my first Division I job at Quinnipiac University, which was at college then, and it was I think it was in its second year of Division I hockey. So
Mhm.
we were just starting off, and now it's kind of a big name in the NCAA world, but.
For sure.
I was fortunate enough to be a part of Rand staff there with Benny Sire, who I knew you mentioned
Oh yeah.
in your podcast there. So you're kind of putting the world together. And Benny and I were roommates for probably 5 years, and we were fortunate to be a part of Quinnipiac's first NCAA tournament bid, and had some really special memories there. And Quinnipiac led me to University of Connecticut, and part of my pursuit at that point, they had a graduate program that I wanted to get into, and a sports management program, and basically paid for it too, which was part of the big reason to go. And
Awesome.
Bruce Marshall and Peter Belisle there were great guys to work with, and 2 years at UConn, did my grad schooling, and coached with those guys, and that led to Holy Cross, and I worked for Paul Pearl up there, who was Bruce Marshall's assistant at one point at UConn. So, you connect a lot of, maybe it's a little Kevin Bacon going on, but there's a lot of degrees here to this business. And, Paul, who's at Boston University now as an associate coach. And I worked with Paul for 2 years. We were part of probably I still think it's the greatest upset in college hockey history when we beat Minnesota in 2006. And that game was actually on the other night, and we're texting each other. They had Facebook going with the NCAA page, and it was the first time I think both of us had watched it from start to finish versus just seeing the overtime goal, which was kind of cool to see, and the excitement. And, 10,000 North Dakota fans rooting for you because they hate Minnesota so much. So it was great experience there, and that led me to Yale. And I was dealing with Tim Taylor, who legendary coach, and Bruce Willannon, I remember, had just left, and CJ Maritola was the assistant there. And CJ and Tim and I were talking, and Tim was let go, and Keith Elaine took over that program. And I think basically Keith asked CJ who you guys were talking to. I met with Keith and ended up getting the job, and we had some some special teams there, during my 5 years at Yale, and they went on, I think 2 years after I left, to win a national championship. And a lot of those guys I was fortunate to recruit and coach, and we had a great run there at a big time academic institution where they said you can't be good at both hockey and the academic side, and we kind of proved them wrong. So after that, I got the job as a head coach and GM in Indiana in the USHL, and was a chance to become a head coach, and that was important to me, and it was a great experience in a great league, and we had some great players, in a few now in the NHL, and but you got to learn about yourself as a coach and do a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
Two UVM guys that we had were on our team there, but it was a fun experience, obviously, just to try different things. And junior hockey gives you a chance to kind of do that as a coach, not just as a player in your development on both sides. And then, from there, I got the Vermont job where I spent 6 years. And, I guess that leads us to where we are now up at Albertus Magnus, where we just started off a new Division III program from scratch and finished our first season.
Yeah. No, I like that you mentioned relationships, because I think obviously there are a lot of politics on the both sides of the fence, and at the end of the day, those relationships matter quite significantly, as I've found over the years. So how was sort of that process trying to get a D1 coaching gig at a younger age too, right? You got into it pretty young. I'm sure it's, like I said, just as political, right? Considering there's even fewer jobs, coaching jobs, right?
Yeah, there's only 60 Division I schools. So, and then I don't even know if there was 60, but I think timing and luck, I guess, in Quinnipiac, if it was what it was today, I wouldn't be getting that job at the time.
Mm-hmm.
The pay was a lot different. I mean, a lot of us were working for cardboard and marker, just like what we need, but we lived like college guys. We didn't know any different. And, we were living in, a house piled in with 5 of us, one guy was on a porch and just trying to stay warm at night, but he was cheap for all of us. And, we had a great time and, kind of hopped around. I think Benny and I, Sire and I laugh a bit, just, he was down, they were playing Yale a few months ago. He's up at Cornell now. And, we stopped and had a good night out and just told, the war stories a little bit and caught up on life. But, I think, timing, luck, it's, I guess the internet's probably changed the game, where we used to go down to our coaching convention and they post on a board what the jobs are. You didn't know otherwise. And you're mailing a head coach your resume and a letter. And now it's everything's, email and text and tweet and snap and everything else that the kids have access to these days. So, I was fortunate to meet with Rand, I think in the parking lot of the Northford Ice Pavilion where we played out of back then in the summertime. And we had just had a long conversation. And, I think I was in Chicago working at camp. It was actually goalie camp at the time out in Chicago. And he
Mm-hmm.
offered me the job on a payphone, and I was using my calling card, and
Wow.
said, "Welcome to Division One hockey." So even just thinking back to that, like I wouldn't even have thought of that if we weren't having this conversation. But it was legitimately on a payphone with a calling card. So that was my intro to D1
Uh,
hockey right there. So
oh man, things have changed, eh?
yeah, yeah, they have. As we're talking about technical difficulties about 20 minutes ago, So
Oh yeah, no kidding, no kidding. Could be worse problems, I guess. But
no doubt, no doubt.
yeah. So, maybe we can just talk about your journey sort of leading up to me, and maybe take our listeners through, how exactly I came across your
Yeah,
radar, and how our roads eventually crossed that first day in Surrey where you and I spoke, if
sure.
you remember.
Sure. Oh yeah, yeah, no doubt. You had to take me back a little bit there, but it was my first year at Vermont. Myself and Kevin Patrick were both new assistants. John Micheletto had just gotten the head coaching job at University of Massachusetts, and we both came in together, which was kind of unique and nice, and it was fresh.
Yeah.
The program was coming off a really, really tough year. And one of our big things we talked about was culture at the time, to kind of change the culture and get back to what Coach Snedden wanted to provide within his program. And we
Hmm.
were kind of a blue collar group, and we wanted to get back to that. And we had some good pieces to the puzzle, but there was some things that need to be changed, and it was hard. And we were basically said, "Hey, this is what you got for scholarship money today, and go put the pieces together." And it wasn't much because there was a lot of guys on money, but we knew we need to make some changes. And
Yeah.
we basically went out hunting, and we both were in the USHL, so we both knew the USHL, but we bounced around. And I remember actually being at that USHL at the Fall Classic there, and watching you. And we
Yeah.
knew we needed one goalie. We we ended up taking two, but at the time we were just like, hey, we're going to find a guy. We're going to find the most competitive guy to back up Brody Hoffman, who we thought was going to be a pretty good freshman for us,
Hmm.
and compete for ice time with him. And watching you with Tri City, and you had a great camp. I remember talking to, I believe it was Josh Houge at the time.
Yeah. It was OG.
And him saying, you know what, we're going to let him go, but we probably should keep him, and you talk about the political game. And I remember just listening to your podcast before, just it was straight truth. It wasn't personal. It wasn't hockey. It was just,
Yeah.
hey, we made a promise to take another kid, and
Yep.
we probably should keep this kid. And but I remember being on the phone at that Fall Classic with Matt Earhart, who played for me for 3 years on those Quinnipiac teams. So
Yeah. Yeah.
the relationships there, and Maddie's going through a list of guys with me because you don't make the USHL, can we get them up here and everything else. And Matt and I had a great relationship, and obviously your phone rang from there. But for me it was like, okay, let's stay on top of this kid. And I think, like you said, it might have been your first or second game. I ended up just randomly being out there. I remember being in Coquitlam, and
Yeah.
um, I think you were pretty lights out that night, so you can fool some people, right? So, but no, but no, it was like, hey, this kid. Every time you catch the guy, he's consistent, and then you start doing a little bit of homework, and obviously have a great relationship with the Avon guys, with Coach Gardner and Coach Dunham, and spoke
Right.
to those
Right.
guys about you. And I actually played golf with the two of them this summer, which was a treat, by the way.
Oh,
So,
right on, man.
even better. Even though you just sit back and listen to those stories,
Yeah.
which is
They're beauties,
phenomenal.
man.
Absolutely, absolutely the best. So, but and then we weren't sure what we wanted. We were recruiting. We had a decent list of kids, and our money
Yeah.
was tight. But at the same time, we wanted the most competitive person.
Hmm.
It wasn't I need a 6'4" goalie that is doing this or that. It was just find the right person and the right fit. And I think it came down to we ended up kind of doing it a little bit stockpile with yourself and a couple other kids, where we kind of made offers to, and it was kind of like first come first serve, boys. So. And we wanted people that wanted to be at Vermont. I think that was the most important thing at that point. That wanted the opportunity to run with it. And yeah, so that's how we got to, I guess, standing in the tunnel way after a game in Coquitlam for the most part. And just, I think from there it was, really building a relationship. with the guys we're recruiting, like yourself, and I
Yeah.
think like I said before, we want guys that want to be here and want to be a part of changing the culture and kind of moving forward. And it ended up turning out to, you stick with the process with the right people, and you trust the people that are coaching the kid and have been coaching the kid, and you do your homework. And
Mhm.
we landed with a pretty good goaltender.
Yeah, yeah. So just to sort of put things into perspective a bit, how many people were you sort of talking to at the time? How many people were on your radar? Because I'm sure I wasn't the only guy, right?
No, obviously you don't recruit one to get one.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I don't remember exactly how many at the time, and it wasn't like, oh, okay, this is our top priority. We felt we had a pretty good goalie on campus,
Yeah.
but also we needed a guy, so it was kind of slow and steady. Just kind of adding to the list. I remember Danny Tyrone, who ended up going to UNH, was one of the kids, and another guy who was kind of an undersized, competitive guy, and so
Yeah.
that those attributes didn't matter. It was just finding the right fit. But it wasn't a long list because we wanted somebody that could, compete to be the number one guy, and would be the right cost, I guess, as we're putting the general manager hat
Right.
on as well too. So it wasn't a ton, but we wanted the right one, and obviously we wanted the right kid.
Yeah, so down the road, toward Christmas, while you honestly did a really good job of just, like you said, it's about those relationships, just staying in touch with me. You called me every few weeks, just did a really good job of supporting me in the recruiting process. It made my decision to go there much, much easier, but when it came down to it, what were some of the things that you were considering before deciding to commit to me as a goalie? Like what were some of those things that maybe were holding you back at the time from pulling the trigger that maybe you're waiting for some more evidence on?
Yeah, I think with goalie is a pretty important position, obviously. So you can get away with making a mistake with a forward or a defenseman at times. So you want to do your homework. You want to watch video. I mean, you're not exactly 6'3", and in this day and age, it's faux pas to recruit a guy that's
Yeah.
not over 6 foot. So we wanted to make sure that piece didn't matter. So I think it was doing our homework behind the scenes. For me, it was kind of let's let it play out with Matty Earhart up in Surrey, and see how he likes him after the first couple of weeks and what he's doing up there. And obviously, that Surrey team, kind of changed the direction it was going when they got yourself and a few other guys that
Mhm.
got the pieces together to kind of take it to a national championship level team.
Yeah, yeah. I like how you said, the size thing because it was something that I was super aware of. Like I knew guys were sort of looking at me and were like, "Hey, it's sort of tough to walk into your head coach's office and say, yeah, this guy's going to bring us
Yeah.
to a natty or something, right?" So, I'm just curious what you think of that size thing, like obviously that size is there so you're a little more cautious, but what are some of those things, that sort of showed to you that my size didn't matter, I guess?
Yeah. Well, your compete level was through the roof. Your intelligence, you could handle a puck. I mean, to me, you're a guy that won. You always won. You found a way. You battle. Like I'm not a, I was still obviously nervous taking you, and then obviously going back to your story, which I think we'll talk about, is going into North Dakota, and you're still going like, all right, like we're going to start this kid at North Dakota opening night at 5-2.5 or whatever you are these days, So but, it's you build confidence by stopping pucks, and that I think that was obviously one of the things we had to kind of reassure ourselves of. Hey, if we're going to take this kid and he's going to be in between the pipes, are we confident that he can stop the puck at it with the size factor? And for me, like I'm not a guy who's I want guys that are competitive, that battle, that can skate. That if you're going to be undersized, and
Yeah,
the guy that we recruited after you, Steph Leckis was no
yeah,
6 footer either.
for
So
sure.
I wasn't really afraid to kind of take that risk as long as the guy is competitive. And I think for both of you guys, we had two pretty good goalies.
Yeah, that was sort of my thinking with it. I sort of knew that I wasn't going to be necessarily a highly touted BC, first round draft pick kind of guy that they'd be looking for. So, I knew that if I just stopped pucks, worried about doing my job, that eventually one
Sure.
day somebody would see that, right? Somebody would pick me up and be like, you know what, this kid can help us win games. And I think that for everybody listening, at the end of the day, size does hold some people back, but not everybody. And I think that if you can do your job just as good, if not better than everybody else around you, that you're eventually going to get picked. So, I think the funny part about how that all went down, like even after I committed at Christmas, the other goalie on my team in Surrey just had a really bad concussion that month. So me and Wally had been talking for months already. And, they told me, you guys sort of said, hey, we need a guy to come in and share minutes and that can help win games. And, around Christmas, you were wanted to move forward. And I told my family, like, this is it, right? Like, this is that right fit, every layer of sort of that decision-making process. So I commit without even visiting the school, if you remember that.
Yeah.
And I couldn't leave my team to tour the school because we were so hot. And like you said, we made some moves. We got some good players. So the pieces all came together. I was starting to play every game. So you and I were literally trying to connect down the line, maybe you come down here, maybe you come down here, maybe we could just, and then we sort of figured, what, we just, we'll probably wait till the season's over.
Yeah.
So it literally committed the whole year. Didn't end up going to tour Vermont until June because we went all the way to the semifinals of the RBC Cup.
That's right.
And I ended up, if you remember, touring. I came down with Brady Shaw, who ended up committing there as well.
Yeah.
And, we had a few guys from Surrey end up committing to UVM, but it was so crazy. Honestly, I had no idea, what I was getting myself into. Like you said, those relationships are probably the most important, but in hindsight, honestly, I lucked out so good, man. It's just an incredible hockey program, tradition, community, academics, the alumni network, the coaching, everything. So I never really imagined it being as good as it was. I just wanted to play D1 and I knew I wanted to play Hockey East. So sort of when that fell into my lap, I couldn't say no, right?
Right. And now, we talk about the technology these days of what you can see online, even for my place now, which isn't
Very true.
a household name. When we're building a brand and trying to do our thing here, but there's, so many video tours and pictures and everything else. It's, especially when kids are playing up in BC or even in Ontario, which is drivable, which, now we can't cross the border, but, hey, come visualize this. But I think it comes down to trust too. And you got to trust
absolutely.
and they got to trust you that you're all in and doing those things. And if I'm selling a kid down here or Vermont or Yale, like they got to trust me that I'm going to put them in the right position to be successful and have a great experience for 4 years.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about another story if you don't mind. So you and I got off the phone that day around Christmas. I think it was around December 8th or 10th or something, right before Christmas when I first committed. Did you call Matt Earhart and tell him I had committed?
Most likely. I just had to tell your note on that. I'm guessing I did, but I can't remember either way, but I'm relationship with Matt that I reached out and said that, hey, Santa committed, just FYI, so obviously you didn't, and I wouldn't have known that part either, so.
No, I didn't. I got off the phone with you. I committed, and I just remember being so pumped, just sitting in my car. I called my parents. I told them, and I literally only told my parents. Like, I didn't tell anybody else, like my sisters, my family, friends, nobody. So that night, I was just so happy that I had accomplished that, right? So that night, we went to Boston Pizza or something. And I just remember I was like eating and my coach randomly came up to me and he was like, what the hell, man? Like, and I'm like, what? He's like, wait, you're not even going to tell me about UVM? And I was like, oh, I didn't know I needed to tell you.
Yeah.
And then the other guys on the team were like jokingly like pissed at me, but they're like, dude, what the hell? You wouldn't even tell us. So just sort of a funny moment, but I think I was just so personally content that I finally got that deal. You heard the first pod and we obviously got to know each other down the road, but just such a long road. And I think everybody goes through that, getting to that point where somebody's willing to sort of take that shot on you, and, but I quickly turned my attention to the big accolades and it was nice that I didn't need to worry about that. But I remember following that weekend in my head, I was just like, you know what? I'm sure there's so many people out there that maybe think my committing was a fluke. So I want to show everybody that I can crush this league. And then I remember the next weekend we had a 3-3, and I got like a shutout and let in 2 goals in 3 games, and I got like player of the week in the BCHL, and then my commit was on the site, and my face was just blowing up all over the BCHL website. And all my buddies were just like texting me like, bro, take it easy, man. Like, take it easy.
Well, it's funny, even in the recruiting world where, you know, it's tough. It's tough when, to commit to a guy that's your stature and net, and probably a lot of people that
Yeah,
came
for
off
sure.
even before the game started. And and then you get the guys going, oh, hey, that's a good get. Oh, I watched that kid. Oh, he's a good goalie. Now you're all of a sudden a good goalie because somebody else committed you. But it's
Yes,
a lot of guys
exactly.
didn't have the cojones to go out and actually do it. So
Yeah, yeah,
and then
yeah.
you go on the
Well,
run at the end of the season, and now, hey, we're playing North Dakota in the opener. I remember seeing those guys because they watched it down the stretch. Yeah, he'll see you in Grand Forks soon. So it's one of those things.
oh man. Yeah, those are good times, buddy. I was super grateful for sort of the way that my college career started and just everything that went down. But maybe it would just be a good time to just talk about, sort of what it really takes to be heavily considered by either like USHL or Division 1 programs. Because at the end of the day, we all want to play at the highest levels. Like I get
Sure.
that, a lot of kids reach out to me, they want to play at the highest levels and I want to help them, but you need to have that proper perspective on the situation in order to beat out the competition and get what you want. Like you said, these other goalies that were in the mix with me, they're good goalies. They ended up being great Division 1 goalies in college. So maybe you can sort of dive into the caliber and all the facets that kids need to work on, to sort of stand out in a crowded world. Like what are coaches at the next level typically looking for in goaltenders?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is you got to play on a good team. Not a winning team, not a losing team, just in a good league.
Yeah,
And then there's a lot of kids like we talked about a little bit where kids in the BC League, kids in the OJ that don't get opportunities at Division 1 level because there's only 60 Division 1 teams and programs.
yeah,
So there's 180 kids at the Division 1 level. So not every Division 1 team is looking for a goalie each year. So
yes,
um, to me, it's stay the course. Play the second year of midget hockey at 16 or 18 to make sure you're the number 1 guy. Be in the net to play as many games, and have as many different experiences, good or bad, as possible. So you're ready to be on the target for Division 1 programs when you get to junior hockey, and you're ready to dominate at that level. And I think at the Division 1 level, at the college level in general, guys are looking for guys who compete and battle and find ways to win games. And if you're doing it in a top league like the USHL or the BC League, then it proves you can probably do it at the Division 1 level. So I think that they want consistency, want guys that can communicate with defensemen and teammates, have a good
right.
hockey sense, and see what's away from the puck. What their compete levels like, what their drives like, what they can do. I think day to day in practice to make themselves better. If you're going to watch a practice as a scout, just to watch a goalie, because it's a pretty important position, and guys don't want to screw up and make a mistake that is
Yeah,
going to cost them hockey games.
yeah, yeah. So for you, what's sort of maybe that, you know, the biggest difference when it comes to goaltenders that are able to make that transition effectively, successfully versus the goalies that sort of just show up and can't play, or goalies don't get anything at all from their efforts?
Yeah, I think don't be in the rush is huge. I think the guys that have been on the bus rides, played, driven 7 hours, got off the bus, had to stretch out for an hour or so, and then play a game, and you do that 20 times during the season. It just makes you tougher when college hockey travels pretty easy. You're getting down the night before, you get a chance to kind of do your thing during the day. You got a pregame skate. Junior hockey, you might get off the bus 45 minutes beforehand with a taco in your system and hope like, oh, you're not coughing it up. So, but it allows you to kind of experience a lot of different things. And I think every time you get a new experience, it's just more in your arsenal to become a better goaltender when you go up the ladder at least a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. So in terms of like play, right? We know it's sort of competitive, but I guess what's maybe one or two things that sort of, you said that willingness to win is one in that competitiveness. But maybe like what are some things that are transferable to the college level from junior that coaches are looking for. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think athleticism and skating's obviously huge because laterally the game's gonna pick up, and
Right,
the
right,
speed of the game is gonna go faster. So if you're not a great skater, you better have a great mind, and you better work on your depth and your angles and making sure that you're putting yourself in a position to at least block the puck versus
yeah,
making an acrobatic save. So I think, I don't think a lot of guys look for that hockey sense in the goalie position enough.
yeah,
I think there's
true,
guys that see guys just, hey, they're making this acrobatic save. And, I see a guy that might leave a rebound there for a tap in, but he made the first acrobatic save, but it really doesn't matter because he left it there. So,
right,
so things, rebound control, I think is a huge one. In the
right,
sense, because you might see a guy that stops 25, and you might see a guy at the other end that stops 40, but he steps 3 or 4 in the same flurry because he didn't put the puck to the right spot. So
right,
let's
right.
butter it up. So I think those are the things as you start really getting into the guys on your fourth, fifth evaluation that you're going to really look into of how consistently he controls the game. I think overall.
Yeah, yeah, no. And I try and tell people, that when they're trying to make, and obviously this whole, sort of question here is the answers you're giving me is really just focus on that development, right? Focus on stopping pucks. And if you focus on that, then when you make that jump to the next level, then you already have those skills and you just need to sort of fine tune things. Cause like you said, if you can't handle the shots you're supposed to shot where you're supposed to stop where you're at, and then some you're probably not supposed to, then when you move up and make that jump, because I know I made the jump at 20 years old, and I sort of always wondered why nobody wanted me. And then when I got there that opening night against North Dakota in front of 14,000 people and just facing Rocco Grimaldi, like Brock Besser, like Troy Stetcher, like all these guys, Drake Kajula.
Yeah,
And in hindsight, I'm like, I didn't even really know who these guys were, but now I'm like, whoa, like that was serious. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
it's the real deal. Yeah.
um, yeah, but like I said earlier, I'm all about sort of providing that perspective. So I want to know what you think in terms of the amount of competitiveness and how tight the goaltending position is getting in terms of job. Do you see it getting easier, or you know what I mean?
No, I don't. I don't. I think, and that's a good thing because there's a lot more guys having the willingness to play goalie now.
Right.
And the positions, growing in the sense of more and more kids being involved, which I think is a good thing. But as the game gets, to the higher levels, a lot of guys drop off that way. So, and now statistically, even the stuff we can see now of, tracking where goals are going and where scoring chances are coming from, and where our guys are, struggling and having their strengths of what you can work on. It's all kind of out there. It doesn't take
Yeah.
much to track that the guy's coming down the right side of the ice with a left shot over your right shoulder, and he does that 5 times in 3 games, and you've given up those
Mhm.
goals that, hey, we need to work on that. So now it's kind of tracking what you need to do, but at the same time, I think the USA Hockey, at least down here, is doing a great job with their development program, and I like some of it. I don't like all of it, but I just don't like
Yeah.
kids at a young age being robots. I like them to try to figure things out for themselves sometimes too, and
Yeah.
adjust to what fits them and what's going to get them the most comfortable and confident to make saves.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I just obviously having gone pro now, it's just getting that Division 1 deal was hard, and then going pro is even harder. The jobs are just so tight. So maybe we can sort of touch on a bit of some things kids can focus on or work on in order to stand out in such a crowded world. Because I think when it comes to the recruiting process, we both know that it's more than just play. It's how much work that you put into recruiting. It's your character, and then it's also those results. So maybe you could touch on some things that kids can either work on, or a better approach to things to help them stand out to like scouts such as yourself.
Yeah, sometimes the quietest goalies are the ones that stand out. A guy that's your body language in the net, something you can control. You're not slamming your stick off a pipe when a puck goes in.
Mhm.
How you react with your teammates. Those things away from the puck. Like I said, with the puck yelling part, what is he doing when he's got to make a puck handling decision or a puck touch,
Yeah.
work with his defenseman. But like, away from the ice, you can always get stronger. If you like, even now without having the weight room open, what are you doing body weight wise? What are you doing agility wise? You got it.
Right.
You can still go outside. You can still run. You can still work on footwork and lateral movement and all those things strength wise. You can do wall sits and watch the same Netflix that you're staring at tonight. So you can make your legs stronger and become better than you were yesterday, and that's the
Yeah.
biggest piece. But and if you have a ball and a glove, you can still your mom and dad might not enjoy your walls, but you can work on reactionary stuff. You can juggle, like all those things that you can do to work on the hand-eye and all little bits and pieces to your game, especially at a time with all the things we have going on right now.
Yeah, no, I love what you said about the things that you do away from the puck. And I mean that was something that I had sort of heard about like as growing up. I'm like, oh, the scouts, they're always watching, they're watching every move, they're watching what you do on the bench. But as you
Sure.
sort of move up in the hockey world, you realize that those character things mean so much more than people think. Just
Right.
because I mean, we know from being at UVM, we're in Hockey East, like it's a dogfight every night in that league, from top to bottom. And you need guys who have that character. You need guys who have that sort of, that leadership, that willingness to compete for teammates. And that stuff goes a real long way because I think as you go higher, it becomes more like war, right? And those
Sure.
character things are what sort of help drive you, past those challenges. Like when I played North Dakota first night, like I could have just said like, oh yeah, I'm just, they don't expect me to win. Right. But I took that sort of and I was like, wow, this is like a really big opportunity for me. And I sort of ran with it right off the start of the year. And that likely changed the whole trajectory of my time at UVM, right? Because I came in right away. It was Brody got hurt
Right.
and I had an opportunity to play. And then you guys kept playing me even when he sort of was healthy again because I had proven my worth to you guys. I was able to overcome some of those big challenges. Like we beat Penn State, we beat Notre Dame, who came into our league. That was the first year back in 2013-14. So yeah, I'm just curious. Do you think there's kids out there that are good enough but don't get seen? Do you think that happens often?
Yeah, I don't know if it's they don't get seen, or if it's just a crowded plot.
Yeah.
I think there's so much, I said internet access before with websites of good leagues that, I'm sure there's some kids in some weaker leagues that have good numbers that guys are like, you know what, I just can't take the risk on this because I
Yeah.
don't know if you
Yeah.
can do it and make the jump. And I think there's kids in good leagues, and like I said, there's only so many. Say there's 30 or 40 Division I goalies each year coming in. So I don't know. If it's just they get seen, but they just fall through the cracks because there's not enough opportunity out there, and sometimes it is financial because you can only have so many X amount of full rides per se, and I don't think most kids right now these days aren't on a full ride. I think it's a huge myth out
Yeah.
there. I think
Oh
that
yeah.
there's the Spencer Knights of the world that are first round goaltenders that are probably I can't even say 100% that he's on a full, but I'm guessing. But at the same time, there's a lot of guys that are pieces of the puzzle because at the Division I level, you only get 18 scholarships for 28 to 30 guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I like what you said there about, you got to play in the highest leagues to prove to people you can play. Cuz that's literally that's why I went to the USHL. That's sort of how you found me was
yeah,
I sort of knew my shot there was slim to none. But if I had lit it up, then I would put my best foot forward and really like you
right,
even talked to Hoji. He was like, "Yeah, we should have taken the kid." And so and I sort of knew that at the time, but I think for people listening, I just want to touch quick on settling for lower versus striving for higher and being a bubble guy at the higher levels, right?
yeah,
If you sort of know what I'm talking about, right? Because a bubble USHL guy can easily walk into the BCHL like I did and get a nice gig. So for guys looking, because there's so much uncertainty, right? Like I told Matt Earhart in the spring, I said, dude, don't wait up for me. I have to take this chance. I have to show people I can play against these guys at this level if they're ever going to consider me, right? So For guys that maybe love that security and aren't comfortable with that uncertainty, maybe you can shed some light on terms of like striving higher rather than settling for lower, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think you got to shoot for the stars. Put yourself out there and think
Right.
about with the political game. The USHL, Tri City might have a NHL draft pick lined up, and you don't even know it. But
Yeah.
at the same time, you're one of 8 goalies, and you probably on paper don't really have a chance, but you do a great job, and it leads you to the place where maybe you're supposed to end up in the BC League, where
Right.
you're the guy, and it moves you on to the next level. And so I think if you're not going to be a guy that wants to do that and know there's competition out there, you're probably not going to be really good in the net for the next level anyway. So
Right.
I think if you can compete against the top kids and you're comfortable doing that, hey, the numbers game might not work out for you in one league, but it might possibly give you a great soft landing to lead yourself to the next level.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so basically we're talking about exposure, right? Getting seen. How exactly can goalies accomplish that? Because I know nowadays most people don't get to play in their backyard, and at the end of the day, in order for us to get more opportunity, we need to be willing to put ourselves out there, like you said. So, what are some things goalies can do to, either attend, like contact, whatever it may be, to sort of give themselves more exposure?
Yeah, I mean, there's even like the college camp I run. I think the goalies sign up faster than the players because they know the spots are limited, and I
Right.
think it's at every event. And I don't think chasing it is the way to go about it, and being at 19 different events and not stopping pucks at 19 different events. I think you pick the 3 or 4 that fit you and your summer, of what you're doing. I always say the beach is a nice spot in the summer, so make sure you enjoy that as well. So, you pick 3 or 4 things that work for your family in the summertime, both financially and time-wise, that that, hey, maybe there's Division 1, Division 3 coaches junior coaches that you wanna be seen in front of, and you try to build a relationship at those things. You introduce yourself to the coaches because 'cause you're not gonna probably, for the most part, get offers out of, those camps, but
Yeah.
you're gonna get on the radar screen, I think,
Yes.
most importantly. But you get a chance to meet, X coach or Y coach, and, you start the relationship, and they know, "Hey, this kid's a good kid. I like the way he competes in these practices and this game, and we're gonna watch him when he gets to midget or junior hockey," or whatever it might be.
Yeah. So contacting coaches, what do you think about that? Is that okay? How should people sort of do it? Because
Mhm.
the way I see it, and here's a tip and a hint for everyone, they're easily, when it gets to college, it's obviously tighter, but there's still lots of Division 1 programs, Division 3 programs. There's 40 junior team leagues easily, with at least 10 teams in each league in North America alone. That's on the low side. So
Sure.
for me, like the way I think of it is, a lot of kids are putting their eggs in one basket, hoping one coach is going to follow through with his word. You know what I mean, Wally, right? Like we both
Sure.
know that the
Yep.
goalies, we need to sort of flip the script a bit, right? Like you said, even when we were talking, I knew you were talking to other guys, right? So you sort of need to toss out 10 or 20 lines, right? Junior, college, just
Yep.
like the coaches do. We need to keep our options open just as much as they do. And honestly, I see this sort of holding weight more than it ever did. No year, like you said, is identical to the last. Things change everywhere so often. You never know where opportunity will lie. Like when I
Right.
when I applied to Avon, I also applied to 8 different schools. I,
Yep.
I
Yep.
got into 4 of them. We assessed where I'd like to play the most, what was the best fit. And Avon that year just happened to have a senior leaving, and they were looking for a guy to come in. So that just sort of worked out, right? But when I was going to junior, I talked to 15 different teams in pursuit of finding that best fit. When I was going into junior college, I was just trying to talk to a dozen of them every year. If you play well enough, you get your name out there, like you said, you build those relationships. People will inevitably come knocking if you get those results, and you've sort of you. This is the
Sure.
I look at it as 3 layers, right? There's the character, personality side. There's the results, and then there's the recruiting side of things. And if you can sort of put in your work and fill out all 3 of those layers, inevitably people come knocking. What do you think about that philosophy?
Yeah, I like it. I think if you do it too early, you're just another name and another delete in the inbox.
Right.
I think if you want to do it when you're at a good level, if you're an elite goalie, you're going to hear from the coaches. Like they're going to know who you are.
Yeah.
If you're a good goalie, wait for your time where you're putting up good numbers on a good team. And that could be a good U18 team. I don't think you really need to do it. Maybe a U16 team if you're an elite
Yeah.
goaltender, but I don't think you need to go chase it until the time comes. As a 20-year-old, obviously you got to get that name out to people because it's your last chance at that point. So the timing's very key when you're writing to these coaches. If you're not a student, you're probably not going to, don't reach out to the Ivies, don't waste people's time. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you don't have a high GPA for that, so like we get it that you're reaching out to a lot of people because you're trying to blanket it just like we are, so,
Yes.
but find the fits for yourself. If you don't like the cold, don't go to Fairbanks, don't email Fairbanks, so like, find the fit for you because you gotta live there and go to school there,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you gotta decide, "Hey, you know what? I'm open to any of these 60. Hey, you know what? If I'm not a student, then I'm probably not getting into about 15 of these schools." So, I think there's a lot that goes in it, and when you're writing those emails, send a little video, but you don't need a novel in that email. I always say to guys, hit spell check. If you write your Coach Wallack, I'm really interested in Boston University, probably not going to go well for me if I'm at University of Vermont. So make sure that we know you're hitting up other schools. Just make sure you're concise in what you're doing and you're detailed and diligent when you send that. And you don't need your prom photo. You don't need all the extra stuff. Just give some references. Where you play, maybe your schooling. Your contact info, and then we can do our homework when the time comes. But you talk about being in the right spots at the right times. I mean, when I was at Yale, I was out in Global there working their camp, and I'm on the bench, and pretty good player out there was scoring a lot of goals, and it ended up being Mario Pascaric, and uh,
Yeah.
and and I built a relationship with the kid, just joking around on the bench, but me and you both know Mario couldn't get into
Oh
Yale,
yeah.
but same time, 2, 3 years later, okay, well, now I'm at Vermont, and Mario was a 20-year-old out in the BC League, and I knew him and knew what he was about and knew his strengths, and we ended up having a relationship and in landing at Vermont. So you never know. We always change. This is the sports world. We're always changing jackets as players are changing teams. So you never know where coaches are going to end up. So I think those relationships are so important.
Yeah, and what do you think's the best way to maybe reach out to coaches and sort of find that contact info? Who should they be contacting, kind of thing?
Yeah, I think you got to figure out if they need a guy. So do your homework before. I think do your homework before you go into that conversation. You can see who's committed. You can see what their each program has on their roster. Oh, okay, coach, you're losing. You have two juniors to be. I'm going to be I'm going into my 20-year-old year. Yeah, do you want another freshman next year? Hey, this is a school I'm really interested in. So have those questions ready because sometimes, hey, they might be able to if you're a good student, they might be able to get you on some academic money and things like that. And you might be a piece to the puzzle. You might be the second or the third string guy for a year or two, and then you work your way up to be the number one. So I don't think you turn away schools in your mind that, hey, they might have a returner. Everybody's going to have a returner for the most part. I mean, it's tough not to. So at the same time, nobody, I think, in their right mind really wants to count on a freshman to have to play in that situation. You might have to, but you win with juniors and seniors, and you want to let that freshman adapt and play. But if they tell you, hey, we're looking at you to be a second or third string guy, don't turn that away. And if they tell you you're going to be a third string guy for 4 years and you're just going to be a part of it as a practice goalie, that's a different conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, no. Yeah, and that was sort of like the conversation you and I had before I came in. I said, is there an opportunity to earn more money? Is there going to be an opportunity for me to show you guys that I can help you guys win games? And, the answer to those questions for yes. So, in terms of a good fit, I guess for me, it's always sort of like you said, there's other guys in the mix no matter what. And you're not going to get a million shots, right? All you need is sort of one or two to really
Yeah.
be ready to show people that you can play. So maybe we can go back a bit to, when I first arrived at Vermont. We talked about it earlier. Hoffman got injured, unfortunately, but that provided an opportunity for me to play and show you guys that I could play, and you guys kept playing me. Was there anything that sort of stuck out to you guys as a coaching staff, as a rookie stepping into that position? And then, I think it did pretty well, right? We lost to North Dakota, then tied them, and then beat Penn State, then beat Notre Dame.
Sure.
In hindsight, it's pretty crazy. I'm sure that helped a lot, helped us a lot get into the tournament. But what did you guys sort of see, or what stuck out to you when I was a rookie?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it was probably some concern because your starter to be gets hurt going into the season, and you're probably a little bit worried, like, hey, but we're also looking at going, hey, we just got a kid who's played a lot of hockey. He's won in a high league. He's competing in the national tournament through all of Canada, so he's fresh and hungry and can win. So you got to give a chance for the guy to play. And I think going into non-conference like we did, which you look on paper, and that's two at North Dakota, a neutral site game with Penn State, and two at home with Notre Dame that year was like, oh boy, buckle up.
Yeah,
But at the same time, you come out of there with some confidence after going in, and even North Dakota with a tie, and I think we probably should have won that hockey game.
for sure.
But you go on the road and you beat Penn State, and you come home, you win opening night against Notre Dame, and then night two we probably should have won as well. So I think after that stretch, we felt pretty good being at 2-2-1, knowing that we could have been 4-1.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think now you gain confidence because you're playing against some of the top opponents in the country. We gain confidence in you, and now, okay, it only makes our team stronger. And I think you get in those situations where now we know what we have here, and now we got to battle for the number one position versus just one guy coming back.
hmm for goalies maybe making that jump to college soon, obviously inevitably it's pretty tough to play as a young goalie in college. Even me, like I mentioned earlier, I went in at 20. I did well, but I wasn't completely lights out. So, it was still pretty hard, but I adjusted, right? As that year went on, I sort of worked hard to make that transition, right? So what do you think was the reason I likely transitioned well from junior to college? What's some advice you can give everyone to be prepared to overcome those challenges when they face them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think you play until probably June 1st probably helped too.
For
You know,
sure.
not having not being done in February. I think that's a big deal because you being on the ice and being at that competitive level for that long through playoffs and the grind of that, I think is a pretty big deal. I think having a great summer going in. I think if you have a chance to get on a college campus and work out with their strength coach, so you know what's expected. I know we started that program where guys were in for 6 weeks.
Right.
I think that's a huge deal in the transition. So you're not just coming in September 1st, looking around, going, "How do I get to math class?"
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
get rid of the things that you can't control, with knowing how to get from A to B, and getting your school ID and all the stuff that the normal freshman's dealing with. That if you got that under your belt already, I think that's a huge deal. You know what the strength coach wants. You know what the guys are like. You know where you're going to live. You've skated with the guys in the summer. You know their ability going in, and you know the expectation. I think a
Yeah.
little bit
Yeah.
more than you would have just saying, "Hey, I'm just going to show up like the normal student."
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I think that for a lot of people, it's a culture shock. Like you said, I was honestly sort of in shambles, man, before I came to UVM because I had played like 60 games that year.
Sure.
We played like 30, 25 games or something up to the RBC. But I think just like you said, getting out there with some guys who've been there, whether it's in your local town or your own team, if they run some sort of program where you can go into sort of get a look at what you're going to face, right? That caliber, that speed, the load, and then obviously taking care of a lot of those academic aspects. Because I think maybe I can ask you this: did me going to private school sort of really help push you guys in toward my direction because of my grades and stuff like that?
No, I don't think it made too much of a difference. I think the biggest thing was, hey, everybody at Avon said great things about you. I think that was the biggest help there. And I think prep school is very similar to college in the game setup. the setting, I guess, where it's, Wednesday, Saturday, but at the same time, it's, you're playing 25, 30, 25, 27 games at the prep level, and it's 34 at the Division One level. So every game means so much more. Where junior hockey, if you have a weekend where you have a tough weekend, you got the window to bounce back. And in
Yeah,
college hockey, it's tough. It's every night's the Stanley Cup.
literally. Yeah, well, as we figured, well, we almost made the tournament a few times. I think my first year we went, and then we played Union, which was unfortunate because we were supposed to play Fair State, from my understanding, and then obviously they
Yeah.
went on to win it all. And then the second year we were like 17th in the pairwise,
Mm-hmm.
didn't have a strong third year, and then the fourth year we were sort of right on that bubble again, around like 20th. So, um, last question. Now you're the head coach of a D3 program, so congrats on that. On that shuffle.
Yep.
You and I discussed on the phone that there was definitely some differences there in the caliber of hockey, the personnel. So it's clear for people. Maybe just give us some insight onto what you think the biggest differences between goalies at the D1 level and the D3 level, and sort of what it takes to play at that highest level.
Yeah, we're looking for the kids that I think I want the Division One player who doesn't get the Division One opportunity. And like I talked to before, those kids that are still out there that you're saying, hey, like, are there missed kids? Yeah, those are Division 3 players, the missed
Yeah,
ones. So,
yeah,
there's differences for sure at this level. I mean, for us, it was a unique situation. This was our first year, and we had 27 freshmen. So, everything was new, everything was unique.
yeah,
But I think I think what guys don't realize is the details of what Division One athletes put in day to day, the work ethic, the nutrition, just all the little extras they put in to become pros. Where I think a lot of Division 3 players think they do those things and they truly don't.
yeah,
So.
yeah,
As a goaltender, for sure, I think there's a lot of really, really good goaltenders at the Division 3 level. So what I'd say is don't sway at it. Don't turn your head. It's just D3, because you know
yeah,
what? You might not be a starter at the D3 level either, because it's goalie number 181 is a Division 3 goaltender, because there's not much. Division 2 and Division 3 I count as the same, and there's 91 total schools that way. So. Um, those are good opportunities. They're great opportunities, actually, and it gets you a chance to get an education, and play a great brand of hockey. And still, you can go on to play pro hockey from this level. It's really what you do with the opportunity.
yeah, yeah. No, for sure. I mean, I know from experience that there are plenty of goalies who are very standoutish in D3 and are definitely Division 1 caliber goalies. I've
Sure.
played with them in the SP, and I've seen guys in the coast go up and down. And
Yep.
I think it's just that willingness to compete, like we sort of mentioned before, right? Stopping those pucks, and then obviously the little things matter, right? Because like you said, the rebounds and all the little parts of your game where you can tighten it up at the Division 1 level, like guys eat you alive on some of those things, right?
Yeah.
There's not much leeway when it comes to error, is sort of the way I look at it, right? Because like you said, the caliber is definitely there, right? In terms of the goalies, it's a matter of the guys around you. You will definitely get eaten alive at the D1 level if you don't sort of sharpen that. So
You got 4 years of development, and you got time to put on 6 to 8 pounds in the weight room each summer, and strength, and sometimes it clicks late for a lot of guys. But college hockey, I think, in general, gives you time to mature to become a pro. And you might not figure it out at 20, but you might be at 24, and it allows you to grow as a person, and you're prepared for it as long as you taking advantage of the opportunities that you're given.
yeah, no, I agree. And for me, that's the way I sort of looked at it. I think everybody, if pro hockey is the end goal, then obviously we should sort of be worrying about our development in the process along the way. And it would have been really hard to go pro at like 20. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I went pro at 24. It's hard. You know what I mean? It's just full grown men. Full tilt. Everybody wants to be there. Jobs on the line every night. And I think that college hockey gave me that time to sort of grow, like you said, put on a couple more pounds, right? Face these really good shooters night in and out and get ready for that pro style of hockey. Um, But Wally, thank you for coming on the show, buddy. It's been a pleasure to have you on. I know people are going to love the recruiting talk. This should definitely shed some light and provide some perspective on what it takes to make the jump to the next level. So can you let my audience know where they can find you and your school online?
Yeah, it's Albertus Magnus College and, albertusfalcons.com on the website, and my info's on there on the webpage and stuff. But, appreciate you having me on. We got a nice up and coming school and program down here. So for the guys listening that are looking for some homes, even if they need some help in the process, please reach out. But always a pleasure, Santa, to catch up with you. I was glad you reached out and glad to see this is going so well for you. And, the next phase to your life here. It's awesome.
Yeah, man. No, I appreciate it. It's always fun to sort of look back and, like you said, like you haven't thought about it in so long. And
Sure.
I honestly haven't much either until I started telling my story on this platform. So no, the pleasure's all mine, man. I appreciate you coming on and everything you did for me over the years.
Sure.
You really changed my life, right, by recruiting me to go to UVM, and I've sort of burrowed my way into the alumni network there, and I'm super grateful for having gone there. So, guys, go check out Albertus Magnus College. Go check out Wally's resume on Elite Prospects. The guy's been a master recruiter for a long time and has coached Division I hockey for 18 years. Definitely listen back. Don't be afraid to put yourselves out there. I hope you guys all enjoyed the talk. Wally, like I said, super grateful for you coming on, and it's always a pleasure, man, talking about some old times.
Yeah, absolutely. Stay in touch. All right.
All right, take care. Thanks again, Wally. Thanks for tuning into this week's episode, guys. If you liked what you heard today, make sure to hit that subscribe button, as we have tons of amazing guests lined up already to come onto the show in the next few months. Make sure to tune in next week and every Tuesday from now on at 8 a.m., as next week, by popular request, I will be doing my second solo session. I figure 12 weeks in, maybe every 3 months. I'll try to do one more frequently, but it's tough with all the work I'm doing. But since it's recruiting season, I will be discussing something I have coined as the bubble theory. I'll be diving deep into tryout season, finding a team, what to expect, how to play your cards right, dealing with politics, and what it takes to get to the next level. All that coming up next week, so make sure to tune back next Tuesday. Without further ado, here are the giveaway details for the NeuroTracker X subscriptions we're giving away. To enter the giveaway, simply go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a written review. Once you leave a review of the podcast, take a screenshot of it and either email it to goaliehacks@gmail.com or DM me on Instagram with your screenshot and your full name. If you guys are also interested in getting started with the product outright right away, they are currently offering subscriptions for cheaper than what the price will be when the product fully launches. So if you guys want to get started at a cheaper price before the price goes up, hit me up on Instagram for more details. Get excited, guys. Great things ahead. I hope you enjoyed today's show, and I'll see you next week.